Hey guys, it's Justin at the Schwab Review, and welcome to the third part of my look at the Hannibal Lecter movies. Today we get to talk about the disappointing Hannibal. This movie is a major letdown from Silence of the Lambs. Now, it's not terrible. I would say it's mildly enjoyable, and it's fine to watch, I guess. But, compared to Silence of the Lambs, it just doesn't hold up. Has a lot of issues, let's put it that way. So I guess I'll start with the plot. It's 10 years after Silence of the Lambs. Hannibal is loose, he's in Italy, and slowly people are trying to figure out who he is and stuff. And there's this one guy, Mason Verger, who was a victim from Hannibal Lecter. Hannibal kind of seduced him and made him cut off his own face and feed it to his dog. And so he's really disfigured and stuff. He's a really rich guy. And so he's trying to find Hannibal to get revenge on him. And while that's happening, Clarice Starling from Silence of the Lambs is starting to pick up on his trail. And that's where the movie starts out. So we'll start out the acting. For the most part, the acting is strong. Hannibal. Well, I'll get to Hannibal and Clarice, which I think are two weak points. I'll get to that in a second. The guy who plays Mason Verger, who during the whole movie is all completely disfigured, so his face is all messed up and stuff like that, is played by Gary Oldman, which is really surprising. I don't know if any of you don't know, which you should know, because he's an awesome actor. He's Commissioner Gordon in the Dark Knight trilogy. Been in a ton of stuff. He is great. He is unrecognizable as him. You would have never known unless you read the credits. And he is great. He's really just creepy and uncomfortable to look at, because there's really big close-ups on him, and you're just because the makeup is so good. Ray Liotta from Goodfellas, he's pretty good as one of the people who's working in the FBI. Has some cool moments near the end, which I'll get to. And the rest of the cast isn't anything special, but it's pretty good. The actor who plays the detective in Italy, Pazzi, is played by the actor who was in Casino Royale. He was Mathis in Casino Royale and in Quantum of Solace. He's good. I actually really liked him. I was actually really interested in his story and what he was doing. So let's get to Hannibal and Clarice. I'll start out by Hannibal because there's not much to say. I think in my last review on Silence, I was saying that there's something about Anthony Hopkins' performance in Silence that just is so much better than Hannibal and Red Dragon. And I kind of realized what it is that he's really hamming it up. Especially in Hannibal. Red Dragon, he's a little more calm, which is good. In Hannibal, a lot of times he's winking at the camera. I get it? I'm gonna eat his wife. I'm just there's even one after he says that line where he says, I'm giving very serious thought to eating your wife, which is a terrible line and terribly shot with the music pause and the camera pulls up to him. He's I'm giving very serious thought. Music stops, pulls up to eating your wife. And right after that, he winks, even right after. Terrible line. He's really cheesy. For the most part, he's pretty good. I'll say he's still enjoyable. He's not whenever you're watching him, you're not oh god, here he comes. So he's still enjoyable to watch. He has some really good moments, but there's a lot of times where he's being really cheesy and hamming it. But he is kind of cheesy in Silence. But in this one, he's so much more self-aware because it's been 10 years and he knows that Hannibal's an icon. So I thought his performance was a little off. I'm just saying. And Clarice Starling, who was played by Jodie Foster in Silence of the Lambs, she dropped out and is played by Julianne Moore, who is a really good actress. I have nothing against her, but in this movie, she's so boring. The whole movie, all the great character traits and stuff like that from Jodie Foster is not in this one. I don't know if it has to do with the writing or her performance, but I just found her boring. I just found it weird because you associated Jodie Foster with Clarice so much. So some of those parts it just felt weird seeing another person play it because you're so used to that. As to Jodie Foster, so it just felt off. Whenever you're watching, I never believed that it was Clarice Starling from Silence of the Lambs. I never believed it the whole movie. It's just I'm sorry. I just really So the movie is directed by Ridley Scott. Great director, did Alien, Prometheus, Gladiator, Blade Runner. The movie, it has a different style than Silence of the Lambs, and Manhunter for that matter, if you want to bring that one up. Silence of the Lambs is a much more like, it's supposed to be like gritty and trying to be realistic and stuff like that. This goes for a much more stylistic approach, like almost like operatic and kind of like that. And it works for the movie. It's really nice style. The movie is very well shot. So this is one of those movies that's kind of weird to criticize because the movie is so well made. It's honestly very well made, beautifully shot, looks great. It looks like it looks different than Silence, but it kind of works in this movie. So the storylines, the beginning storyline, because there's kind of like two storylines. The beginning storyline has this Italian detective named Pazzi who's finds out about him because Hannibal's hiding in there under a different name. He finds out about him. He's trying to catch him for himself. That's like the first hour. And the next hour is from the storyline. I actually really liked that beginning. I thought it was a really interesting plot, and I liked his character. I thought it was a really complex and cool character. But without spoiling too much, that plot line doesn't last too long. And after that, that's when the movie kind of fell apart a little. I'll put it that way. Like there's a lot of scenes where Hannibal is almost like he just like disappears out of nowhere, like a horror villain, and it just felt weird. There's just like really kind of cheesy moments, and just some of the stuff I really didn't like. This movie is much more, it's bloodier than Hannibal. It kind of goes for the shock value other than suspense. Right? Like having a scene, even though the scene was shot kind of differently, so it's not as like obvious. The shot of with Gary Oldman when he's cutting up his face and feeding it to the dog, that's unsettling. A scene at the end. This is a spoiler. It's just, this part is a major spoiler. There's a scene at the end where Hannibal gets Ray Liotta's character, and as much as I mostly complain about the blood in this movie, this is one scene where the sick guy in me kind of enjoyed it. He cuts off like this top of his head, to where just you can see the brain inside, revealing the brain, and he cuts off a piece of it and feeds it to himself, feeds it to Ray Liotta. He cuts off parts of Ray Liotta's brain and feeds it to him, to clarify that. And it's just this really weird, strange scene where like Clarice is watching this happen, she's like reacting to it. It's a strange scene, I don't know why, but I enjoyed it. I was just like, oh my god, are you serious? I was kind of smiling, which that sounds weird, but I was kind of smiling. Where the rest of the gore, I was kind of like, that's not necessary. It's really cheesy, but I kind of enjoyed it. So that was a really funny scene. I don't know if it was supposed to be funny, but I found it funny. But yeah, the movie is just, it's not that great. So out of 10, like I said, it's enjoyable and worth at least a watch. And I do find myself rewatching it occasionally, but not very much. I'm only gonna go 6.5 out of 10 because I was actually disappointed with this one. So Hannibal, overall, it lacks a really good story, a really interesting story. It had some interesting stuff that I built up to, but ended way too early before the climax. Lacked really good performances. Especially by Clarice, which I found really disappointing. And mostly goes for shock value than any suspense, a real build-up, a real character development. Mostly just goes for shock value, which I find really distracting. So, that's Hannibal. Not that great, but they, because this movie ends open-ended, and instead of going the sequel route, they actually went back and readapted Red Dragon, and that was actually pretty good. But we'll get to that next time, so talk to you guys later.